Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the July 2020 East Monkton, Vermont garden video. And we've got a lot to look at, a lot to see. It's been more than a month since we did our last video. There's been lots of harvesting, lots of work done in the garden, and for the most part it's doing very, very well. In fact, in some cases it's going out of control. So we will show you what we've got, and let's get going. Now, we checked with the NGVA, the National Garden Video Association, and found that we had been making some major errors. We were not starting our videos with a discussion of chives because we didn't have any. So we went out and got some. And we've planted them in two places, very young plants. Right here in our compost bin area, we've got two. We wanted to see if they could survive the varmints. And then the other is down in the garden itself, in one of the beds, which we will show you. I hope you'll excuse the in-joke we just did about chives, but it's an important part of what goes on in gardening life. So, in any case, here we are in bed number one. It was our early bed, and you can see it's kind of jam-packed, even though we've done a lot of harvesting. So if we start, I'm going to remove our rabbit protector here, get that out of the way so we can see what's going on. We have our carrots, which are doing quite well. Not a whole lot in the actual carrot department down there, and it's in part, I think these were suffering a little bit early on with dryness and overshadowing by beets. These beets right next to it are a beet medley, 3 different kinds. We've eaten a lot of them. There are not too many left in the ground, but you can see they're big, and when the carrot plants were small, they were not. They were overpowering it. Over here, you can see we do have some chives growing there. Also, this area right in here was our. Trying to get my shadow out of the way here. Was our head lettuce. We had 8 heads of lettuce, which are long gone, and currently, right now, we have 4 romaine plants in place, and plus this is a leaf lettuce that we had. We have some other leaf lettuce, but it got buried under there, and I don't know what it's doing. You may remember in the last video we talked about planting some of the romaine lettuce under the tomatoes to protect them from the full hot sun. Well, it didn't work. It was too much in the way of shade, and they kind of just got skinny and started to grow upright. So we moved them out into the sun, and they just went straight up into seed. So we're trying again, and they still are shaded by the broccoli. Now, the broccoli has been harvested. This variety, I forget the name, but it was great. The heads were huge and delicious, and now we're getting great side shoots, as you can see right in here. They're coming on all the plants, and we'll be harvesting some of these tomorrow to use in a stir fry that will have fresh broccoli, fresh sugar snap peas, and freshly picked green pepper, along with some other things. So, and the larger part of the beets that are growing up here, those are Detroit dark reds we did from seed. They're doing quite well. They're crowding out the red onions up there that we have growing, and the onions are doing okay, but we haven't seen much in the way of bulb forming there either. There's still time. We also have some turnips that are growing in here. We've picked a lot of them, but you can see they're quite nice. They're really good for stews and other things. This area right here was peas, and we have finished with our pea harvest. It's all gone. And so what we have done is put in a second planting of broccoli for a later crop. It's a variety, it's called Marathon. I keep wanting to say Medusa, and of course then we'd end up with giant cabbage worm snakes coming at us, so we don't want that. But it's Marathon, and it's supposed to be good in cold weather. The cold weather isn't going to be here for a while yet, but we'll see what happens. And then we have some herbs that have been in here, and they're actually been shaded but doing well. This is marjoram. I've cut the dill way back because it was wanting to do nothing but bloom, and what I really want from it is the dill leaves to dry. We then have basil, which has been doing very well. We have a lot of it drying, and I still want to get it frozen. See how that does. And then we have some oregano over here, which is doing well. We did have some lemon verbena in here, but it was too crowded, so we moved that up by the pond. So this bed is still crowded, even though we've harvested a lot. There's still a lot more to harvest. It's been doing very well. Oddly enough, we've seen no sign of cabbage worms yet. Knock on wood, they'll be back. They'll be around. I know that for sure. Coming down here, we have our squash bed, and we've been doing very well with our zucchini. We've had a lot of zucchini. Mary has frozen some, blanched and frozen it. We've given some away. We've eaten a lot, and it's a little bit of a hiatus going on right now, which is good because you can get overrun, and we don't want to let it get too big. But it's very healthy plants doing well. Then we have next to it acorn squash, and the acorn squash always seems to be affected by the hot sun during the daytime. But take a look at this. We've got some beautiful, I get the shadow out of there, acorn squash growing down in here, and it's been really great. So it's really nice to have this early in the season acorn squash or this far along. Here's another one that's just doing really well in there, and it's big, and it's only July, late July, so we're hoping we'll get even more from what we've got. One area of disappointment is our blueberries out here. We had three blueberry bushes, two very small ones, and one that we had purchased a little larger, and something has been eating them, just eating the branches right off them. This middle one right here was fairly large, and something just kept chopping the branches off. You can see there's just stubs there. There are leaves starting to come back, and I don't know whether it's rabbits or chipmunks, or when I made these little cages the other day, I found a mole or a vole out here. This one is coming back a little bit, but they're tiny, so we're hopeful we'll have something decent for a little bit for next spring. So anyway, that's one of the major disappointments. Now, coming up to this bed here, which is our number 2 bed, or our crowded bed. It's our bed full of beans. First of all, we have a second planting of beans. Let me take this down so we can see a little better. Second planting of beans in the front, but it was being really crowded out by the first planting, so I had to put some twine. We've already harvested some. We'll be harvesting more today, so you can see there's a nice crop. These are blue lake bush beans, been around for ages. We're getting a good crop off of those, but they've been crowding out the second planting, and they've been crowding out our peppers, which we have 2 new ace pepper plants, and you can see that there are good peppers down there. The plants are doing all right. They're just kind of crowded, but we're going to be harvesting these tomorrow for a stir fry. This plant is a yellow pepper. I'm hoping to see these get ripened. Then we have a red one that I can't even see at the moment. It's kind of buried. We then have jalapenos coming, and then on this on the end we have might be able to see way down there, we've got some what ultimately will be red hot peppers, and we'll let those dry and use those. Now the big thing is tomatoes. Look at this wall of tomatoes. As I mentioned a month ago, we went with the instructions or the recommendations from Gardener Supply website of how to plant a raised bed and how many plants of certain varieties you could put into a square foot, and we took them at their word and planted 1 tomato plant per square foot, and oh my goodness, it's just unbelievable. And when I come around to the other side, the north side, I have not got supports up high enough, and they're coming over the fencing, and it just is something else the way these things are growing. And we're going to be inundated with plants. The first two up here are San Marzano, which are a paste tomato, and I think you can see a couple of them right here. And then the next down is a cherry tomato. It's just a grape tomato. Then the next ones down are called indigo cherries, and you can see the color of these. They're darker on the top as they start to ripen. I'm going to take the fencing down here again also, because what I'm hoping to do is see if there are any ripe ones in there, and I need to go and get my bench, so stand by for one. I said bench, I meant stool. Being the old man gardener that I am, it's very comfortable to sit on a stool out here and see what you can do. So starting at the end, we have 2 Better Boy tomato plants, and we're getting some really nice big green tomatoes on here from those plants. Then we have another big tomato plant. I can't remember the name of it, I'm sorry. It's a hybrid of the big boy. It might be a best boy or something of that sort. And so those will be later in the season. We don't expect to get any ripe tomatoes for a while, but this wall of plants is just unreal. Then there's a plant in here called, I think it's Mountain Delight. It was advertised at the place we got it as one of the most popular tomato plants in Vermont, and does very well. And it's one of the few where we've gotten some tomatoes, and it's a matter of how do you find them. But I'm seeing a ripe tomato in there, so hang on one second. So I was able to find a few from different types, grape tomato, and a few off of this Mountain Delight or whatever it may be. We haven't gotten too many yet, but they're just hard to find in here. And I think after I pick the beans this afternoon, which we're planning to have tonight, I'll have to come back over around here. But I've got to do some work to get some more support for these plants, which I'm going to do this afternoon. Here's a whole cluster of the grape cherries that are coming along. And here's some more of the Marzanos, if I can get past the leaves. So the tomatoes are so far a success story. It's just they're growing like crazy, and I attribute some of this to the fact that we had newer soil, and it was half topsoil, half compost, and it made quite the difference. So it's really been just an amazing thing to see how well some of these plants have grown. It's been great. So anyway, that's it for these beds. That's it for what we've got going here. We will be trying to plant some things for fall harvesting, get some more radishes in, keep lettuce going. I was going to do more peas. I won't. I was not happy with the variety that we had. It just kind of stopped producing where I thought it should have. But in any event, we will be working on it, and we'll see where we are in a month. We don't know how much more of a growing season we'll have. My memory is that sometime in late September we get our killing frost, although it can come as early September, so we'll see what happens. It's been a warm summer, hotter than usual. Here we've got some cutting flowers, some zinnias we did from seed, and cosmos, which have been very slow to bloom. They're beautiful bushy plants, but we've got the first buds coming right here. So within a couple of days we'll start to get the cosmos. And I have to talk about the pond. We're using as source material for a pond a book by a man named Robert Pavlis, who it's called Building Natural Ponds, and he instructs you how to build a pond that is not using pumps or filters or chemicals. And what we've been doing is following his advice. We have plants in here. We did put some red minnows that we got at the pet store, feeder fish in. And Mary, about an hour ago, found some baby fish swimming around in here, which we assume are minnows. We've got tadpoles. We've had northern green frog. We've had northern leopard frog. We've had eastern gray tree frogs. We've had lots and lots of stuff going on in here. And it's really been interesting to see. And try and do this without filtration and so forth has been quite something. I don't know if you can see the tadpoles swimming around. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of them, and at some point some of them will survive to become frogs and we'll move on to other locations. So we still need to get more plants in here and some more rocks around the edge and do some things, but it's been quite something to do, and we're quite thrilled with how it looks. It's a great place to be, and we enjoy it. So anyway, that's what's going on here in East Monkton, and we will be back in a month, and we look forward to seeing what happens with the garden. And we are still just very happy to be here where we are in north central Vermont, enjoying the rural nature, the quietude. We've got geese starting to collect out in the marsh already. Last fall they were there for quite some time, and before they migrated south. So it's just wonderful to be where we are compared to where we were in Florida. And we've been here just over a year. Can't believe that. In fact, it was even a year ago today. We still didn't have our furniture delivered. We were living on an aerobed. But in any event, that's it. We hope everybody enjoys and is having a good summer in spite of the quarantines and all the stuff that's going on in this country. Focus on your families, focus on your friends, focus on the things you enjoy and you have control over. And we'll be back next month. Take care. Bye-bye.